Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. I need to fix my camera's focus. So just give me a sec. Sorry for the delay. I was sharpening pencils and then I realized that it was time to stream. So I was like, oops. I might zoom out a little bit though. So let's get this going real quick. There we go. All right. Hi, Dee. I have not decided how I want to tackle this page. I had an idea in my head that I was originally going to do, and then when I sat down, I was like, do I want to do that still? But I think I am going to go back to that idea. So I have to pull out different colors because the colors I had out before aren't going to work. So I'm going to have to start from scratch. Hi, everyone coming in. I am a little behind today, so I'm going to pick out some colors and get this going, I think. Yeah. I'm going to go back to my original plan of what I was going to do. So let me get the colors out that I'm needing. Hope you guys are having a good Sunday so far. All right, and then let's see, we want mauve. And then I'm gonna want, I need my sugar plum probably. Debating. Like I said, I had this whole plan in place, and then when I sat down to look at the page, I was like, maybe I'll do something different. And that's what happens. I get stuck in my head. But we are working on this page here in Mythographic. If you haven't done much Mythomorphia. Mythographic because of the Mythographic books. Totally two different things, but this is Mythomorphia from Kirby Roseanne. And then this is the little reindeer bunny page. I guess is the best way to describe it. And that's what we're working on today. We're going to be using Derwent Inktense, and then one person can win a copy of this book for themselves. Not the Inktense though. Sorry, I can't afford to give those away. But I am going to... All right, yeah, I think I got the colors I need to get this going. Thistle, and then amethyst, and then that will roll into the pinks. No, the blues. Making this more complicated than it needs to be. So I'm doing something I've done. It wasn't in this book. It was in a different Kirby book. But sometimes when you have Kirby book or pages like this, and they're pretty overwhelming, you have a few ways you can tackle them. But sometimes it's fun to just create a big color block. And originally I was going to do that in a rainbow and just literally have a rainbow going. So you're not really even paying attention much to what you're filling in. It'll just start red and bleed into orange, yellow, blue, and all that. But then I was like, but I got all this stuff at the bottom. So then that made me change my plan of attack because I don't know, I felt like doing some bright colors because, well, Inktense are very bright. And that's why I was sitting here this morning I want to change my plan. So I'm changing my plan, but it'll still be fun, especially since it's next to this page here, which was also done with Inktense. It's almost done. I actually just need to add some accents and maybe glitter or something. I don't know. But I figured the rainbow would look weird next to that page. So I'm going to do similar colors, but lighter, because this side was really dark. Today I am using water brushes. So I normally will activate Inktense with either a colorless, colorless alcohol blending marker or my water brushes, but today I'm doing water brushes, especially because I changed up my plan. So first thing I think I'm going to do is color in this little guy to kind of get my mood, so to speak, going. So let me grab the colors for that. They're all going to be very light. Sorry, I've got a sort of a runny nose from all the weather changes out here. So I'm going to try to not sniffle in anyone's ears. I need probably maybe some sea breeze. Where's my sea breeze hiding? Somehow my Inktense got all out of order. I need to go through and put these all back in order. And then, all right. And hi to everyone coming in. So I'm going to start by coloring our little guy here. Very lightly though. But this will kind of set the mood for the colors that are going to be, well, growing off his rear end. I don't know how else to put it. It's kind of an odd assortment once you actually look at it, right? But I'm going to use, so unfortunately, all 4 of these are ones you would need the 100 count set for. But you could find colors similar and just water them down. But I'm using Amethyst, Sea Breeze, Malibu, and Pink Flamingo. If you don't have those, instead of Sea Breeze, you could use your Mallard and just use it a little lighter. Instead of Malibu, just take your Iris or even your Sea Blue or even your dark aquamarine, but you'll just need to make it lighter. Amethyst, the best one to water down would be your Mauve. Pink Flamingo, just water down your Cherry. But, I mean, it will look a little bit different, but close enough. You can water them down by activating them on a palette first and then putting them on the page, or just do really, really light layers. So, and I'm even doing light layers here because I kind of want my bunny to almost look translucent. So I'm going for like a ethereal look. So I'll be mixing these colors to just make him look kind of like he's glowing, like he's a little crystal. And then that way I can still debate on how I want to do the flower arrangement. Because like I said, I've been back and forth so much on it. I don't know. But originally I was just gonna, and I'm probably still going to do a color blocking with it. It's just the color palette will be a little different, but then at least I can start off this way. All right, and then I'm gonna add some Malibu in here. The nice thing about these 4 colors is if they mix together, you're not gonna create anything muddy or ugly. So like you don't have to be worried about that. But at the same time, that's why I don't have a green in here, because the green mixed with, like, say I mingled it with this Pink Flamingo, that could come out a little icky. So these are colors that if you accidentally blend them together, they'll still look good. I'm still going to try to keep them separate a little, but Sea Breeze, I'm only going to use a light bit here and there, because this is one that's a little bit darker. In fact, I actually want that part there. Probably. But yeah, so sorry about last week. I have like the world's worst insomnia, and it's been just nonstop for a few weeks now. And so like last Sunday, that night before, so Saturday night, I guess, I just could not fall asleep. So by the time I woke up, I was like, ugh, I'm working on like no sleep. And you know how you feel just so icky and your brain is so heavy. I was like, there's no way I can stream and strand together anything that's coherent. So I had to cancel, but So first I was like, well, I'll drink some coffee, but yeah, there was no coffee in the world that would save me from that one. So I'm going to activate some of these, and then like I can always go back and add more color later, but I cannot take it away. So I like to activate it, and then sometimes I'll just shade with the dry pencil. Sometimes I'll go back and add an actual activated layer. It just depends on how it's looking and what I want. But going back and shading with your dry pencil is always a pretty good technique, and then it adds a little bit more dimension. And you can do that with both the water brush activated and marker activated. And then another thing I'm doing when I try to keep my colors nice and light like this is I keep my water brush fairly dry, like it's just a teensy bit damp enough to activate the Inktense, and then that's it. Like I shouldn't see any pooling water or anything like that. If I do, then there's way too much water. And I mean, the water will mute your colors, but I'm trying not to blend all these colors together. I want like you to clearly see the pink and purple areas. So I want it dry enough so that I can just drag them, excuse me, without blending them. But like I said, if you accidentally activate and blend them into one another, these colors here will look fine. Mixing and matching. I'm still wiping off my brush though, because I don't want to, like, say, go into that light purple when I've got the sea breeze on it. Yeah, see? And then it stays nice and light. All right, let's see. So we're going to just keep on going. The horns, I haven't decided for this rabbit reindeer fella, but I'll let it dry before I go back and add any more colors if I do, or even shading, because especially if you're activating with a water brush, you don't want to go in and add or go over it right now with a dry brush. You'll need to wait till the page is fully dry. You can always like pull a little bit of color off the tip if you really like, you notice a spot that you want it a little darker and more concentrated. But just know that like if you pull it from the tip, it will be a lot darker. So I only do that if I'm like shading an area and I'm totally confident that I want the full concentrated color. All right. Need my other one. I'm using a mixture of water brushes though. I've got my Tombow brush, and then I've got this one's the Kuretake Zig. Those tend to be the ones I go towards, although the Tombows have gotten pricey lately. I was going to buy a replacement set, and then I saw the price, and I was like, wow, that went up. They used to be somewhat reasonable. But the Kuretake Zig ones are pretty decently priced. I still like Pentel, but I've noticed over the year I've gravitated more towards Tombow and the Kuretake ones. Hi to everyone coming in. All right, so we'll keep adding our color here. I'm still tired today. I can't wait for the day that I like wake up and I'm like, I feel well rested. I slept all night. Maybe that just doesn't happen when you're over 40. I don't know. But gosh darn it, I'm looking forward to it. I like go to bed half the time, like by 8 p.m. because I'm usually dozing off by then. Gosh, I was dozing off by like 6 p.m. last night. I could not keep my eyes open. And if you're wondering if there's like a method to my madness of where I'm putting color down, there really isn't. Because like I said, I'm just kind of going for a little, gonna give this guy a translucent look to him. So I'm just kind of putting these colors everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. Probably add like some sparklies when I finish the page, and some white paint pen maybe, just to finish off that look. But yeah, I mean, like the colors here, like if you're coloring along, just you don't have to put them exactly where I put them. Let's put some purple down here. Hi, Shannon. I was gonna message you this morning and say I was streaming, but I forgot. Honestly, I was late to the stream because I was like setting up and I'm so out of practice, I guess we'll call it. So I don't feel like I've streamed much the last few months. So I had to set everything back up, and then I was like changing my color palette last minute, and I was like, oh crap, it's past 10. Guess I should go live. All right. Trying to leave some white space too, so I'm wiping off my brush. That is the nice thing about some of these newer light colors that they made. It's a little bit easier to do this technique, but like I said, you can water it down on a palette and then just put it on your page, or just put it really, really lightly on the paper and you'll be fine. So if you don't have the full 100 count, just use those other colors I recommended. Just be very light when you put it down on the paper. The thing with Inktense, you can always add more later, but you can't take it away once it's activated. You can erase it while it's dry, but once you activate it, you're kind of stuck with it. All right. Yeah, that's working. That's working. As for a background, no idea what I would do. Yet. I don't really like to plan out my pages too much, if you can tell. I'm not a big planner when it comes to anything creative. When it comes to everything else in life, I'm like all big on planning it out to like the letter. But when it comes to like a coloring page, I rarely like start with much because, you know, I had an idea initially for this one and then I changed it. So there you go. But I don't know. I've always been that way when it comes to creative sorts of things. Maybe it's just because it's whatever I'm in the mood for that day. Just gotta let it ride. And you don't have to type rainbow in caps. And the reason it is rainbow is because originally I was going to do this in a rainbow palette. So if you're wondering why you're typing rainbow, that would be why. Because, yep, this was going to be a rainbow palette initially, but I'm not going to do that now. But yeah, it's not case sensitive. So if you wrote it in lowercase, it's fine. But just don't you do need to make sure the spelling is correct for it to enter you. And then, of course, and I'll double check and make sure Nightbot is actually registering people. Yep, it is. Okay. But yeah, just only type it once. So if you've already typed it with correct spelling, don't type it again. If you didn't spell it correctly, you're safe to type it in again. But I just have that anti-spam thing. People, if they put it in too many times. This is such an odd character, if you think about it. All these flowers and stuff growing right out of his back. To live into the mind of Kirby. Kind of makes you wonder, like, what he's thinking when he creates these little characters. Because this is kind of the stuff like you would dream about. I don't even dream about these things. But still, sometimes I'm just like, who would think of that? All right. Oh, the blue Inktense ones or Prismacolor? I think I did both. I keep forgetting where I'm at with Prisma and where I'm at with Inktense. I'm almost done with another combo for Inktense. Just taking some time. The Inktense ones are a little bit, or they take a little bit longer, but it's mainly because I'm trying to like make combos that don't have the extra pencils in case there's people who don't have the full 100 count set. So I'm like, okay, how can I make this combo with this? So that one takes just a little bit longer. I'm not going to color the flowers in yet while I think about how I want to go about this. Put a little purple here. Here. And like I said, I'm just being very cautious with this sea breeze since it is much darker than the other colors. So that one I definitely wipe off my brush. All right. Okay. I don't think I'm going to have to really go back in and shade much. Not yet, at least. I might wait till I do the rest of everything just to see, but I like the way the colors are now. Basically, the colors I'm putting on this little guy are what it's going to reflect from around. So I'm going to use similar colors but darker versions. And he's just kind of going to be reflecting those colors. At least that's my plan in my head right now. So I'll have the purples, blues, teals, and pinks. That way it kind of goes with the page that I have next to it. I don't know. When I have pages like next to one another, I feel like they need to match a little. Doesn't have to be like exact because it's not meant to be a double page spread, but I still just have like this urge, like they need to match a little. And then I'm still going to do, like I said, my color blocking technique with it, just not in a rainbow palette. A little more purple in the center there. Okay. Let's see, I got sea breeze hiding in here. this it being summer, my days are so screwy. Like yesterday, especially because 4th of July was on Friday too, but I was sitting there yesterday and I was like, it doesn't even feel like it's a Saturday. It's like the weirdest thing. It didn't feel like a weekday either. It just kind of felt like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Just a day. I was like, I wasn't in weekend mode. Not that I can really get into weekend mode when the kids are out of school, but it was just kind of like the day like went on by, but it didn't feel like it was a weekday. It didn't feel like a weekend. It was like a limbo day. I don't know. It's very weird. And I don't know if it's summer combined with the holiday being on a Friday or what, but yeah, it was just a all around odd day. And then today I was like, all right, it's Sunday. Like this whole week has just felt kind of off. But then again, like my daughter's birthday is July 3rd, or was July 3rd. So we had that too, and yeah, just a weird week. And then it went by like really slow. So then all of a sudden I'm looking up and I'm like, oh, it's Sunday already? I don't know if anyone else experienced that or if it's just me. But I always get kind of in this weird muddled, like, what day is it during the summer? Because like I work from home anyway. So like if the kids aren't in school, it's not like I'm still going to work Monday through Friday type of thing. My schedule's a lot more open. So I don't have the kids' schedule to kind of ground me and remind me what day of the week it is anymore. Every day is just a Wednesday. There, that's how it feels. It's just you're like stuck in that midweek slump every day of the week. You're like, I think it's Wednesday. Maybe it's Monday. I don't know. Let's see. Some purple up here. Oh, my hands are freezing because the kids like up here, they have their own, all the floors in our house have their own AC system, which is great, or in theory, but the kids will like crank it down. So I walked up here and I was like getting ready to set up and freezing. And I look at the thermostat and it's set to like 68. I'm like, what the heck? So I had to turn it off, but my art studio, because it's closed off, it's still freezing in here. So my hands are all cold. It's like 90 outside right now. But all right. There we go. I always get especially with a water brush, I always get very intense when I'm activating because I don't want to leave little water lines. They bug me. So that's the one drawback to the water brush is you can get water lines if you're not activating it carefully. So then I just kind of get entranced and like focused. Especially with these lighter colors because you'll see the water line a lot easier. Yesterday was a very lazy day too, just because I was like, stayed up way past my bedtime, that's for sure, because I don't, like I said, I normally go to bed at like 9, but then to top it off, I think we got home from fireworks at like midnight, so I was pretty exhausted. All right, now we're going to start with since I've got kind of my base on here, and like I said, I'm leaving him. I've assumed it's a him because of the antlers. Could be a she, I guess. These are like, so my goal is, if you pictured a crystal ball reflecting the colors. So now I'm going to get my colors for everything else, and I'm going to do this in color blocking, but these will be darker. So I'm going to start with the purples. Now I don't want to go super duper dark, so I'll do like mauve, thistle, amethyst, and then so what I'll be doing is it'll be going into the other colors. So I'm debating if I want to start with purple and move into, because I got to think it up just right. So purple into blue and then into teal. That should transfer pretty good. So let me see. All right, so amethyst. And cut it off there. Go from amethyst into iris. And this is kind of the hard part because you have to pick out your colors, thinking of how they will look when they mix into one another. So amethyst into iris. Then we're going to go I think I am going to need my darker violet as well. All right. Just debating if I want to go purple, blue, teal, purple, teal, blue. Yeah, maybe teal blue would be better. Actually, I think it would. Okay. Except purple and teal can look a little ugly if not done properly. So I'm going to have it come. The choices. So we'll start with the purples, and then I think I'll cut it off and then mix it into teal here. So, amethyst. All right, and then for the teals, we're going to use Malibu. Where's that? Sea breeze again. Okay, sea breeze. I want my dark aquamarine. Nice thing is you don't really need to sharpen for this. Dark aquamarine, sea breeze. Debating if I want to use that mineral blue or not. I could use the green aquamarine. They're really close, mineral blue and green aquamarine. Green aquamarine. Or if I just want to use these three colors, because I got the dark. And that probably should work just fine. So yeah, we'll just stick with those. Okay. Into that. And then we'll slide right into blues after. But we'll see how that looks first, because I might not even need the blues. All right. So I'm going to take just a few of my light colors and just get a few of these pieces here colored in with these lighter ones. Just for the transition. You just want to make sure you always have, like if you have little bits and pieces that are going to be different colors, then you want to make sure you get those activated. Because the nice thing is if I accidentally go over them with water, when I'm activating a larger area later, they won't reactivate as long as you've activated all there is left to activate. That's the big thing. Okay. There's nothing worse than accidentally going over something and realizing you hadn't activated it, and you're like, oh shoot. All right. So now we're going to start with the dark color. So I'm starting with deep violet. And so this is how I do this color blocking technique. I'm literally coloring in everything. Petals, stems, doesn't matter. Even like I'm going to avoid the open space because obviously I'll leave that for my background. But when it comes to like the objects, I'm going to color those in. And like if you ever need to like create like a reminder line, because like for me, I'm debating, you know, how far I want to take this out. So like I could always, you know, put my lighter color up here to remind myself, okay, I'm going to start transitioning up here. But I tend to just kind of wing it. And the reason I'm not coloring in the full object is because I will be dragging a little bit of the colors together. I'll be leaving some white space just to drag the color in general. Big thing is I just need to make sure that I'm coloring the objects and not any white space. Or I mean like space for white space for the background. Right there, I'm going to color that in because it's hard to tell if that was meant to be left as white space or not. And then, of course, stay in the lines. Rather important one, I guess. That leaf goes there. And I'm still doing my pencil really lightly because, I mean, it's Inktense. You don't need a lot of color. And then I'm moving on to my mauve, which I'm going to add a little bit of it down here in some places. I might add it in here a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be up here. And this technique's really fun. Like I said, I did it in another Kirby book. I'm trying to think which book it was. It's like a cocoon, and it was one of his older ones, so it had a bunch of hidden objects, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to color those. So I colored over them in just one big cloud of color, and it looked just fine. But then it's fun because I'll usually take like a glitter paint and go over it as well. So it makes it look even cooler when you finish it off with like a layer of glitter paint. Okay, I think I'll bring it up here a bit. To like be a straight line when you're doing this, because otherwise it will look kind of silly. And same thing when you're activating it, you're going to be like pulling color into another color. All right, so we got that one. Now we're going to grab my, oops, move that over here. And we're going to grab my thistle. Start putting that down. as you can see, I am going over the stems, the flowers, everything. And then I'm adding a little bit of it down here. Some places it's hard to tell what's what, so sometimes I'll just decide that's an object. It is a Kirby book after all. Like right in there, it's hard to tell sometimes. But like once I get all this, the purple down, I'll activate it and then move on to the blue and show you like how I merge them. All right. Also is a super quick and easy way to do a page. Now, see like up in here, it's hard to tell like because you have a lot of white space and stuff. So like that would be a background. So you can either leave that as your background or just color it in. I'm going to leave it for now and see how it turns out. I can always go back and color it in later if I decide I don't like it. Okay. All right, and then I'm on to my amethyst, which is the lightest purple. But yeah, I'll leave like these little white spaces here for now and see how I like it. On the other one I did in a different Kirby book, I ended up just going back and filling it in. But on this one, I kind of want to wait and see. Just in case. And then there's this leaf back here. All right. And I'll probably have the blue start somewhere about here. So I'll bring this one up and then maybe that will be blue. Okay, so we'll activate the purples first. And we're basically going to be going from light to dark. And since I am preserving the white space behind it, it's a little bit more tedious. Like, because on the last one I did like this, I just was able to woo, but can't do that. And then I kind of consider this like a base coat because what's going to happen is after I get all the other colors down and it blends into like the blues and stuff like that, then I'll go back and add shading. So like some areas will be darker. I may even add in more transitions, but this is kind of just like the base coat to get it started. And I'm dragging some of this into the white space I left on purpose. Now I know I have my amethyst running into my thistle like on this. So I just need to be a little careful while I'm doing that. But you'll start to see it, like it's hard to see it right now because it's dry, but you'll start to see where the amethyst starts to come into the next color. And then as we keep going from this light color into the dark ones, then you'll start to see it better. But right now it's hard to see the transition, but I promise it's there. Like I know that one. Okay. And then the nice thing is like with this technique, I can go back and say I want to add like a little bit of the Malibu blue, like reflecting off of some of these. I can, but I have to get the base color down first. So again, I'm not going to use a ton of water because I will be going over some areas again, and you don't want to pill the paper. And this paper can take a good chunk of water, but if I'm going to do multiple layers or possibly go over it with a dry pencil, I want to keep that in mind. So I'm using, like I said, my brush is just damp enough to activate without leaving lines, because if your brush isn't wet enough, it will leave lines. I need to get over here so I don't get my hand in the wet ink. But yeah, I don't want it super wet. Like I shouldn't see any puddling. The color will drag, but just barely because, like I said, my brush is damp. If the color is dragging really easily, then you've got too much water for this method. And then you still want to move light to dark while you're activating. Because like right here in these transition areas, I've got this amethyst going into thistle. And then as we keep going down, I'm going to start getting into even darker colors. So you want to activate light to dark. Let's see, now we're getting into another darker purple here. That's also mingling with our thistle. Okay. I'm going to try and activate this side first. That way I can move over. Because I don't want to get my hand in the wet ink. It'll dry pretty quickly since my brush isn't super wet, but still. You can, I'm going to zoom you in so that you guys can see a little better too, because then you'll see where I left some white space naturally. Okay, there we go. You can see some of these white spaces where I just dragged the color in. So they'll be a little bit lighter. Okay. And I need to move back up here. So I've got some lighter colors. I've got like the morning sun right in my eyeballs. So every time I turn to look at my screen, my eyes have to adjust for a second. Like, oh. It reflects off the weird metallic coating they got on the side of the high school across the street too. I'm just kind of wiggling my brush into these darker areas. Hi, Kenny. All right. And this one, I'm just going to drag really gently and then scumble it, which is just wiggling your brush around. Okay. And I'm kind of taking my time going from some of these colors into this darker violet color just because it's really strong color. And I'll just keep going. And just go down here. Luckily, I don't have to worry as much about the water lines because you won't see them. I just have to make sure I don't accidentally mix and mingle two colors when I'm doing the transition down here. So I just keep wiping off my brush, like especially if I grab one of the darker colors. Honestly, you can never wipe your brush off too much. It's just a good habit. Kind of like when you're flicking hair, you know how you get in a good habit of turning your pencil so that it wears down evenly. It's kind of the same muscle memory habit you want to get when you're activating Inktense. Just activate, wipe your brush. Like, don't even think about it. Especially when you start getting into like more complex blending, it's a good habit to have. Because there's nothing worse than creating a really pretty blend and then screwing it up because you have a color stuck on your bristles. Been there, done that, cried over it. This is the tedious part, activating everything, staying in the lines, because like I said, last time I did this technique, I was like, screw it, and just went over everything. So here I have to actually be like, okay, stay in the lines. It's okay if you go to the lines a tiny bit. But for this one, for the background, I'm going to stick to something pretty light because I need everything to stand out. So that's the other thing. All right, come back up here now and work our way down. I just have to make sure I've actually activated everything. There we go. Okay, I got those. Ugh, it's still freezing up here. My hands are like so cold that I don't want to operate. Got like the shivers in the middle of summer. That's great. Get a little more water on my brush. Yeah, so watercolor pencils and Inktense are two different beasts. Inktense are a water activated ink, hence the name, but you really shouldn't use them with the expectation of watercolor pencils. One, they're obviously way more vibrant, but they're ink, but they're also permanent. Whereas watercolor pencils, you can reactivate, you can, they come out a little bit more muted when you activate them as well. But Inktense are so permanent, you could actually like color on a canvas bag if you wanted and throw it through the washing machine and it will stay. But yeah, they're two different mediums. So it's really important to know that some of the activation techniques can be the same, with the way the methods you activate them, and then like the technique of scumbling and all that. And then even going back and shading, you can do that with both, but it's just really important to know that watercolor pencils and Inktense aren't the same. Because like I have that comment all the time of like, because I did my top 3 watercolor pencils, and people are like, well, why aren't Inktense in here? They're not watercolor pencils. So they have a little bit different. And also, Inktense aren't as forgiving as watercolor pencils because they're so opaque with their color and bright. And then also when it comes to like getting water lines, you're 10 times more likely to get a water line with Inktense than you are watercolor pencils. But yeah, they're definitely different. Albrecht Dürer, however, you can get them very vibrant. You just need to put down a heavier layer. Because there's been times I've used mine and I want them to be a little more concentrated, but you have to put more pigment on the page. Whereas with Inktense, you don't have to put more pigment on the page. All right, so we're gonna let that dry. See, so we have our little purple transition here. But now we're gonna move into our blue while that dries, and I'm gonna try to not get my hand in it. But then we'll transition into our blue up here. It's more like a tealish blue, but the nice thing with Inktense is they last a long time because you rarely end up sharpening them because it doesn't require a lot to put down. I mean, just a tiny bit goes a very long way with these pencils. Same with watercolor pencils. I mean, my Albrecht Dürer, I've used quite a bit and they're like barely run down. So that is the nice thing about using like a watercolor pencil or water-based medium. I mean, because like if I colored this page with my Prismas, I'd be using up a lot of good old Prisma goodness. All right. I don't want the light blue to be too much, but I am going to have it like blend in. All right. I don't know if Seabreeze. Debating if I want something for my Seabreeze. No, I can make it blend. So I'm going to leave like some white space between the Malibu and Seabreeze, but that's because when I drag them into one another, Seabreeze is just so dark. Okay. I could probably get this to move into a blue as well. Looking at the space I have. So I probably will. I'll go from the purple into these teals, and then I'll go into a blue. If you're wondering why I'm not going into a pink, there's not a ton of pinks in the Inktense palette. It would be more reds, but I can always do that after the blues if I feel like it. But I think it'll actually look good with these colors, the blue, purple, and teal. Let's see a point in mixing another one in there. All right, we'll go up here. But yeah, then I can move into blues probably about here-ish. So just add a little bit of sea breeze. Up here, there's like a ton of white space because of the background. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. And then grab my dark aquamarine, which will transition into, I'll probably have it go into deep indigo when I switch to the blue palette. Okay. Add a little bit of it in here, kind of like I did below, where sometimes I had the darker color mix in. Eep. Now when you lay these down, it's kind of weird. I'm trying to see where the heck this... There's like a leaf hiding behind here, but I can't tell where it's ends and begins. Let's see, I got this one here for sure. I'm probably going to make the cutoff for this color right about here anyway. That's my cutoff line. I can, there's like a leaf here. I'm just going to assume it's this and hope that's right. I might even do the background as like a nice pastel pink color, because that'll tie into the colors on the little reindeer rabbit dude. And I got this here, so I think what I'm going to do is I'll do part of this in this color, and the other part will transition into that indigo later. Same thing with this flower. I'm going to have the bud, that blue color. That's weird. I wonder why it's doing that. I don't know. They're ads and stuff. And you know, I do apologize. When I set up the stream yesterday, I did not double check the ad settings. Like I said, I haven't been streaming so much the last few months. I'm out of practice. So I totally forgot to check the ad settings. So sorry. Okay. Okay, let's do this now. So because I'm transitioning, I'm going to activate the light Malibu first, going down into this purple, then I'll go back up into the blues. But I want to make sure everything melds together with these two colors first. So anywhere like the blue and purple overlap, I activate first and drag that blue in there. I'll even grab a little bit here and pull it on the top of this leaf. Activate this flower, but then I'm going to also drag it down into its stem. Same thing over here. I'll activate this flower, then drag it into the stem. So I want a little overlap of the colors. And then I'll even probably go back later and pull a little bit off the tip in some spots. But like right here, I'm going to activate this. And then while it's still on my brush, just add a little bit to this purple. Kind of like tinge the tips of it in a way. All right, now I'm trying to find a way to activate. I'm going to have to turn my book. So I'm going to activate over here first, and then I'll just turn my book because I'm going to move upward this time as opposed to down. Throw my cloth down here though. And just drag it. Some of the darker blues I'll drag into that Malibu color. That's the thing. You won't see a lot of these colors until I activate it and then be like, oh, there it is. That's kind of how Inktense are. I mean, they're really nice to use dry, but they don't really pop till you activate them. And then even up here, I may come back and like pull some dark purple off in these areas where the teal gets a little darker and more blue. Yeah, you know what? I totally missed a whole leaf right there. Hold that thought. I was like, why does that look so weird? It's because there's a whole leaf right here. Okay. And I still got my light blue as well, so I'm going to turn my book a little here. And hopefully keep it all on frame. My pencils are in the way. I'm trying to keep it zoomed in though so you guys can see on it. You're not being picked on. Who's doing picking oning? Is that even a word? Well, it is now. All right. So this darker color up here, I'm not going to worry too much if I have like just a cutoff because like I said, I'm going to be taking an indigo color and that thing when I activate it and roll back over, all this teal is going to take up everything anyway. So I don't care if I have like a little cutoff line right here. I'm going to fill in right there. And on this one, I'm kind of working backwards. I'm going dark to light, but it's just because of the angle I have to hold my book at. But if you're doing this, it's much easier to go light to dark, but I needed to angle my book so that my hand wasn't in the way for you guys completely. It still is a little bit, but all right. That stem like goes nowhere, just like stops. Take a drink of my water. Oh, YouTube is picking on you. YouTube is a meanie. Actually, I shouldn't say that because then it's going to cut off my stream. It doesn't like to be talked bad about. I'll start having mic problems. All right. Wipe off my brush because I know this one's darker back here. Okay. Zoomed in, it's like you can't see the whole, well, obviously you can't see the whole picture, but what I meant is you can't see the whole transition. The color block doesn't have the same effect. Like in my head, I was like, yeah, you can't see the whole picture, but that's like a duh because you're zoomed in. But what I was trying to say is you can't see the whole transition effect, so you don't like get the whole gist of the look when you're zoomed in like this. On that one, my brush was a little too wet. All right. And some of the light blue might even not really show up too well right now on your screen. Just depends because my camera settings, but it's there. And I'll darken it up if I need to, but I have to wait till I get the whole transition done and then I go back and add more color. I would say out of all the pencils to use for like Kirby books, I tend to lean towards my Inktense. All right, see, so we're going from our purple to our light purple to our teal, and then I'm going to switch over to blue here, but I need to pick out some blues. So I need my indigo first. Wherever that one is hiding. Oh, there it is. That one I actually need to sharpen. Okay, so deep indigo. All right, so I got my deep indigo. I'm probably going to do, because I want to do bright blue, because you could do like we've got a few blues to choose from, but I'm going to do more of the brighter blues. So I'm going to go from my indigo into my deep blue, wherever you're hiding in here. That's iron blue. I need to go more this way. Okay. All right, so my deep blue. And then I think sea blue would be a pretty one. Plus it's kind of got a bluish green tinge. And then we'll see, because that's 3 colors. Let's see. And we'll just go back to Malibu because that'll actually round it out. All right. So now I got to color these ones. All right. So I'm taking indigo, which is very, very dark. So be very careful with this color. I'm using it lightly. But like when you go to activate this one, you want to be really careful because it will swallow everything whole. It's kind of like the dark violet color I have here at the bottom. Alright, this is where it gets weird. So there's that. This has got to be something. Trying to like decipher what's what here. I think I'll have the transition right here because I don't want a ton of dark blue. So yeah, I think I'll go to about here and then have it start transitioning over. Since I'm going to pull it backwards anyway. So then I'll grab deep blue, which is a very pretty color. And the little like petals floating off, I'll go back and do later. Leave some white space on some of those petals. Maybe add a little deep blue in there. Okay. The crowns. I don't know. They added a bunch of new things, but I think it's like, I don't know. It's like top fans is what the ranking is. Yeah, it means that you comment and type and stuff a lot, but it's like a top fan crown badge. I don't know. YouTube's been making commenting competitive, I guess. I don't know. It's a competitive sport now. But yeah, it's like a top fan badge. All right. This one's a little... Because I saw those the other day when I was finally catching up on like 3 months of backlogged comments. So if you all noticed me just suddenly replying to your comments 3 months later, that was why. I literally sat there while my daughter was in a doctor's appointment and just was like belting out as many as I could. And then I was like, I can't stop. I need to go home and finish. And man, that's a problem. If you don't sit down and like reply every day, it backs up. Okay, now we're gonna switch to the sea blue here. So I'll have it overlap a little up here, maybe even on some of these leaves. Again, trying to preserve the background area. It's a little hard sometimes though. So I think that's part of this leaf up here. My, oh my. It's almost like you need to hold the book at like a few different angles so you can be like, is that background? Is that a squiggly line? What is that? Because that is definitely screwing with my eyeballs. All right. I don't want too much light blue here at the end, so I'm going to take this color a tiny bit further. And we'll bring it down here. Yeah, I'm not really putting down much color, like, at all. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to put in some Malibu here at the very end. All right. This part gets tedious because you're just like trying to fill in all the space. Of course, this would be even more tedious if I was actually coloring each element individually. So if you think about it, it could be worse. It's more so you're just like at the end, like, ugh. And this is only the end of the bottom layer, so it's not like light at the end of the tunnel type of end. Okay. Now let's see. So first I'm going to go and activate. Now we'll go this way. We're going to work light to dark. And then I'll just tug the indigo at the end into the other one. All right. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. I need to remember to angle my camera next time. I say that every time too. And then I'm like start a stream and I'm like, oh, forgot to angle. Little things. I need to put a Post-it note on my laptop or something. Okay, I'm getting all the light blue areas first. The ones that are just all light blue, because I'm going to be merging into a few right here. So then we got our color up here. Okay. Like I said, I want to purposely keep some of that white space just because it adds a little bit of difference, because otherwise if you just fill them all in evenly, you don't have any like variances. I'll scumble that one. And all scumbling is just kind of like wiggling and dotting the color around so it's more even, and that avoids like any harsh activation lines. You don't get it as much with watercolor pencils, but you will get it with Inktense. And the problem is because Inktense can't reactivate for you to like go back and fix it, you really want to kind of perfect this scumbling early on, or at least get in the habit of it. Like even in areas where you don't need to scumble, it's good to just practice doing it. Kind of like the same thing with wiping off your brush, because the lines, the activation lines, you'll get a lot with Inktense. But that's why I said Inktense have a little bit more of a learning curve, because they're not as forgiving as like watercolor pencils. And then water control for Inktense can really make or break how they look. They can come off chalky if you don't have the right amount of water. So that's another thing, because they are so opaque and vibrant. But yeah, if your water isn't quite right, you'll almost get like a chalky finish to your color. So water control with Inktense takes a little bit to learn, and that's why like I usually recommend for beginners to do the colorless blender method, because you have just the right amount to activate it, but you're not sitting there toying with the water brush, because the water brush does take a little bit to kind of get used to. And every brush releases a different amount of water, holds a different amount of water in the bristles, so then you have to kind of get used to that as well. That's why like you'll end up finding which water brush brands you like and you kind of stick with those, but that's because you know how the water releases with them. Like if I were to go grab my Derwent right now, it's been a while since I used my Derwent brush, so it would take me a little bit to remember how it releases water and holds the water. That actually is supposed to be something back there. So I might have to go back and fix that one later. Like I said, it gets a little muddled up here. Okay. There's a leaf back here. You don't want your brush too dry either, though, because that'll leave lines as well. That's why I said Inktense kind of have a learning curve. You have to have the water just right. It's like Goldilocks of pencil land. Not too much, not too little. I need a drink of water. If you have a question, yeah, put it in caps because I don't always see things because sometimes people are just talking like between each other. So like, you know, I'll glance up and check the conversation. But if you have a question specific for me, caps help. Just don't spam it. Just keep in mind there's a wee bit of a delay between like when I'm talking and then other stuff. Okay. Just re-wet my brush a little. So my nose is going to be a little more runny because it's so freezing up here still. Ah. And I'm like looking out my window and I see my neighbor walking their dog in like shorts and a tank top, and I'm wearing a hoodie and shivering. I think I'm gonna find a way to lock that darn thermostat. The kids cannot be trusted to manage the thermostat. I'm gonna drag this color up here. And I did put a pretty light coat of indigo so it won't be as dark because this color can be really, really dark and concentrated. So that will make it a little easier. I may end up having to actually go back and darken it just depending on how it looks. Like I'm gonna activate it and drag it into some of this teal up here. Yeah, like indigo, I'll show you on my swatch chart how dark that one can get. It is pretty dark, and it's one that will definitely turn chalky on you if you don't use the right amount of water. And the first time I tried to make a background with it, I was like, what happened? Okay. Let me just finish activating this and then I'll look for the question. All right. No, it shouldn't be less intense with the marker unless you go over it too much. I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see this, but because I've mentioned that in tutorials, like do not go over with a colorless blender too much because it'll actually suck up the color. Because I know they're called colorless alcohol marker blender pens, whatever. That got really mouthy. But the problem is they actually will soak up the color in that clear marker. And then yes, they will look dull, but that's because you went over it too much. So anytime you're using the colorless blender, you literally go over it once to activate it, not back and forth, just once, and that's it. So you need light pencil lines so you don't leave lines in the paper. But then you also need to just go over it once. Like go back and watch videos where I use those because you'll notice I only go up and down, and I move over. I never go up and down the same spot because then it will literally suck it into the nib and you'll get a lighter color. Let's see. You got the basic 48 set. Honolulu is the type of marker. So Honolulu is like the brush nib. So you mean you got the 48 basic Honolulu series and you want softer shades? Because they have the Oahu, the Honolulu, and of course Honolulu spreads out to Honolulu B, Honolulu, whatever. Honolulu goes crazy. But Honolulu is the type of marker. So like that's their brush nib series. So if you want softer shades, you would want to get like the pastel ones that are Honolulu markers, if that's what you're talking about. Because they do have like that 48 count basic set that has like all your mid-tones and stuff. And so you can go get the Blossom or crap, what's the other pastel one called? But the problem is the pastel sets are pretty big. So it depends on how many softer shades you want. All right, so this is it right now. But see, so like we have all our colors and then it's reflecting off of this little guy here. But then like the next step is, obviously I have to repeat the process down here. But the next step is going back and like adding where I want more. So like in some cases, I might deepen this up a little bit or not. And then of course, like background, most likely I'm going to do like a soft pink for the background. So that'll help reflect the pink here. No, I am not going to do it with a Soul Inktense pencil because no thank you. But that would be such a pain in the backside. So yeah, the next step is to kind of just go through and like fix any transitions and like, you know, add where I want more colors or more shading. It doesn't show as much on my camera because I have my light turned up, but like most of this transition is actually perfect for me. All I would be doing really is like, I'm going to take some indigo here because it's already dry because my brush. So like I'll just be going through and like darkening some areas up with the dry pencil. But I don't see any need to go back in and add any more water activated. But really, like this would be the next step is going in and adding shading with the same color where I need it. Like I definitely want it like shadowed in there. I want like this little, like these little center pieces. I want them a little darker. So I'll just like shade those out and you can already see it. Even though I'm zoomed out, you can still see the shading. And you don't even have to do this step. Like if you go, oh my gosh, that's too much work, you could totally skip this. You don't have to do this because I'll end up putting a layer of glitter over all of this as well. So it kind of just looks like he's got sparkly flowers coming out of him. But it's just if you want that added layer of depth, then you just go back in and add the shading where you want it. I just want a little bit more shading here. But then like over here, one thing I would do, excuse me, as I cough, one thing I would do is this transition. I'm going to take this amethyst and actually just get a little bit. I'm going to mix it on some of these petals up here. And I'll lift the book and show you so I'm not zooming in and out a bunch. But just a few where it's the light blue meets the purple. I'm going to have them overlap just a tiny bit more in some of these spots. Like this petal. Maybe even a tiny bit over here. You want to be very careful pulling it off the tip though, because like I said, it's very concentrated when you do that. But like, so just added a little bit more purple up here to these tips. See? Just for a little bit of a transition effect. Now, same thing, I could do that down here, you know, like, where's my, gotta go through all the colors I've got. So say I want a tiny bit of like my darker mauve in here, I can pull it off the tip. I could also go in and just shade it. But yeah, I mean, really that's all you do from here is add like little plops of color. Like I want a little bit of this purple also on this petal. Especially in these transition areas, I like to take a little bit the color from the first one. So like over here, I could take my lightest, because this is Malibu, so I'll get my, what was it, Sea Blue? No, it was Sea Breeze. So where'd my Sea Breeze go? So I can take my Sea Breeze over here, just take a tiny bit on the tip there and add some turquoisey colors to the end over here. To tie it in with over here. You could even just go in with your darker blue and add some more lines if you want. I can even take, let's see, mauve would be too dark. But like I could even take my amethyst over here and add it to some of these just to add some purple on this side of the page so it's not one-sided. I've got purple here, but then because this is light blue, I can add some purple over here. Now, if you're not using these exact colors and you're adding like a color on top of a color, just make sure you know your color theory. Like if this was green, I would not be adding purple on top of it. So that kind of example. But adding a little bit of purple here just kind of gives it that little extra. So see, like adding in that purple right there. And then you have it kind of more balanced because then otherwise it's just purple over here, nothing over here. So it's kind of like, I'd probably add a little bit more purple actually because I like the way it looks. Plus it'll help play off of the pink that I'm going to use in the background. So I can even like go through and add like some purple even on the darker blues just to like give it a little touch of purple without actually putting the pencil down. But yeah, you could like, I mean, I could sit here and like twiddle around with this for days if I'm left to my own devices. I'll be here adding purple for hours. Just be like, oh, this is fun. Here's a fun spot. Now, if you don't want to sit here and like just constantly pull it off the tip, you could put it on a palette and do that, but I'm only adding a little bit of purple here and there. I could take tiny bits of the pink flamingo on my brush and just put it on in a few spots just to add a little bit of something so it's not just one color. So I'll add some of the pink in here. And again, without actually putting it down on the paper itself, like I'm not coloring it and I'm just pulling it off the tip and adding it into some spots. But this is kind of where I get to the point where I'm like, I play around with the page a little bit and like add some colors, but not too much because you still want the gradient to keep going. So like right there's a little too much of that. So if I've got, where'd my Malibu go? Hello, you were on my desk. Oh, there it is. So like if I have one where it's a little bit too much, then I just go back over it with my blue. Because guess what? It won't reactivate, so the blue will just go right back on over. But yeah, you want to keep the gradient itself preserved, but you can add like little splashes of color to show it reflecting. But just make sure you're not like going crazy, you know? So like I got the purple and like a little pink over here, but I don't want to go too much because I want it to still go purple, teal, blue. So that is the first step on that, but we're already at like 100. 1 hour and 40 minutes. So let's do the giveaway real quick. But yeah, like this process is faster. I know it doesn't seem that way, but considering I colored all this in 1 hour and 40 minutes, all I have to do is down here. And what I would do down here, because I won't have time today, what I'll do down here is the same thing, but I'll probably just go with the purples. So I'll be using this combo, like literally this purple into the light blue with purple and pinkish tips. That's what I'm going to do down here, just because I won't have enough space to go into the blue. But we won't have time for all of that. So let me do the giveaway real quick. Let's hope Nightbot pulls. Now, let me give you some rules. As always, the glorious rules. You must live in the United States because as much as I would love to pay to ship to France or Australia, I cannot. So you must be in the United States to get your free book. You type rainbow like everyone else is. So yeah, rainbow, all one word. Doesn't matter if it's caps. So you must be in the United States. You will need to email me right after you're, announced so that no one can, try to pretend to be you after the stream. And then, what is it? My brain is not working today. My brain's like, and off. And then, yeah, so email me and then I will probably get back to you like by tomorrow and we'll get like your address and stuff. But just know that you have 1 minute to respond once Nightbot picks your name, because otherwise we'll sit here for like ever waiting for someone to say they're still here. So you'll have 1 minute after the time Nightbot picks your name to say I'm here and claim your prize. If not, I'm going to have it draw again. And once Nightbot draws again, even if you show up later, sorry, it moved on. So you do need to be active in the chat at the time your name is drawn. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, as always, the usual disclaimers. This is not sponsored, endorsed, yada, yada, by Kirby, Amazon, and or YouTube. I'm the one that will be supplying the book. So let's get rolling and see if Nightbot picks people who actually entered. It is cheaper to buy the whole 100 set if you don't have the pencils already, but I have had these pencils, the original 72, for years. The chances of you needing a replacement open stock it takes some talent to whittle down. I think I have one color that maybe 2/3 of the way used up. So it would take some talent to whittle these guys down. These last forever. So if you already have the 72 count set, it is not going to be cheaper unless you want backups. But like I said, you're not going to need your backup pencils for a very long time. So it would be cheaper to just go grab that 28 count set from Colt Pens. Sometimes Blick's open stock deal works out cheaper. You just need to kind of compare them yourself. But yeah, if you don't have Inktense at all, then buying the 100 count set would be cheaper. But up front, that's a pretty hefty price. And let's choose a winner. It says Joanne. Let's see if Joanne here? So we'll see if Joanne's here. But yeah, if you already have the 72 count set, I would get the 28. I mean, I use Inktense a lot, and I haven't dented mine. It takes effort. It's great that they're available open stock, though, for that time when I finally do run out. In fact, the one color I had to replace was because I lost it, not because I used it up. I actually lost the darn pencil. And then I found it. And then I was mad because I was like, I'm not going to use this other one up. Oh, okay, she's here. Congratulations. I'm writing in caps. Optimistic. I can type. Okay. There is the email address. Oh, I beat Shannon. And she's normally a ninja. That's like an achievement. But yeah, shoot me an email just saying you won so I can send you a copy of the Mythomorphia book, even though I keep wanting to call it mythographic because, well, apparently that's where my brain is at. But yeah. So I think I'm going to call it a day for today. I haven't streamed in so long. It's like an exercising a muscle streaming. Oh, I'm sorry it's skipping. I don't know why it's being weird. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday and week. I am hoping I will have another combo video this week. I'm almost done with a sheet, so you can keep an eye out for that. I also have another watercolor battle comparison video coming out this week. I just need to finish editing it. And you guys know how much I love to edit videos, so there's that. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday and week, and I will catch you guys later. So until next time, take care. Bye now.